Welcome to the second episode of the HoneyPot podcast for sweet conversations. I'm your host, Carmen Hendricks, and I am about to take the lid off the pot to give you news, serve a little bit of tea with honey, and help you find your next favorite children's author. Today we have Mr. Demond Alvarez, author of Soul of a Man and Lyrical Soul. And as we learn about him and his books, we will also talk about some of today's hottest news topics. Born in New Orleans, Demond grew up in an artistic family with a mother and father who sang in the church and a brother and sister who became writers. Demond followed in his siblings' footsteps and became a writer himself. Using what he learned from being in front of the church, Demond began reciting poetry. Now he has culminated his love of the library, poetry, and books into a career of writing, using it as a tool to combat depression and entertain the world. Welcome to the show, Demond.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Now, before we get started, I know I gave a little introduction, but can you tell us a little more about yourself?
A little bit more about me. I'm now living in Houston, Texas. Been in Houston now for about 7 years. Before that, I lived in, I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. I grew up around that poetry, that jazz scene, the great food, the culture, and all of that good stuff. Grew up in the church doing church plays, singing in the choir. Even though I didn't get the voice that my parents had, I got the gift to write. So very thankful and grateful to that. And I'm also a motivational speaker, and I travel also.
That's wonderful. Motivational speakers, I commend motivational speakers. I go out and I speak, but it's so taxing. I love to do it, but sometimes I'm like, oh my goodness, it works my nerves, because I'm like so anxious. Am I saying the right thing? So I actually like to talk to kids. Usually that's what I do. I usually speak with children, basically for anything dealing with writing, or I did an event recently that was like a mom and me event. And it was wonderful. And I spoke to them about just being unapologetic about who they are. So I like those kind of events. But just being a motivational speaker, I commend you.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we get into some questions, I kind of want to talk about some of the things that are happening in the news today.
Okay.
And let's talk about CVS buying out Aetna. Now, we know that they're buying out Aetna for $69 billion. And if you include the debt, the total will be $77 billion. And this deal is going to change the face of healthcare. Now, I know that when I was working in corporate America, I had CVS as my pharmacy of choice. And the insurance that we had, I had to go there, honestly. And if I didn't go there, then they had to do the mail order, which I did not like. I don't want you sending me my medicine in the mail. I don't like taking medicine anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that this is going to be an interesting merger. Now, it hasn't gone through yet. The deal isn't done yet. And according to CNN Money, it's going to have to be approved by antitrust regulators who've been skeptical of this type of merger, because buying Aetna puts CVS not only in a better position to compete with other integrated healthcare providers, but it can change the face of the way people buy their medicines, what they're able to buy, how they are able to buy it. So we have a lot of advocacy groups out here who fear that it will have a dismal effect on consumers. So what do you think about that?
Well, one thing about the healthcare industry, it's something that was it was streamlined through the Obama administration. A lot of people love the Affordable Health Care Act. With mergers such as this, you have to look at the fact that people like, the insurance premiums are going to go up, or are they going to be covered with their prescriptions? Because I've heard a lot of people say that they go to Canada to get their prescriptions because it's so cheaper, and they'll just send somebody out to Canada, then they'll just come back. So, it's just mergers like this that you have to kind of look, you have to kind of look out for, because you don't want your premiums to go up, and you don't want to have to be, you want to be able to, you want to be able to afford your medications, because I know a lot of people are on, especially older people, they're on fixed incomes, and a lot of things through the new administration that's in office, like everything is being slashed, like it's a midnight mass sale. It's like, we're cutting prices, everything must go. So they cut everything out right now. So yeah, so that's definitely something that you have to definitely something that you have to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, this new administration, they are doing a lot of things very differently. If you notice, a lot of these bills that they are trying to pass or that they are attempting to pass, they do it overnight while you're sleeping. And, they just recently did that with this tax bill that still had handwriting on it,
Right.
Yeah.
I saw that. It was a female senator, and she was like, "Look at this," and she was trying to read it, and it had like some scribbling on it, like a 5-year-old did it with some colors, like 10 minutes ago. So she was like, what am I supposed to do with this? And they're trying to pass this bill in the next hour. So it's like, while the regular people are on Facebook and Instagram looking at Tyrese, talking about, what do you want from me, and all of that stuff. They're really slick. They're really slick about that. That's the old okie doke. They'll put something out there. We're focused to the right, and on the left, they're passing these bills like hotcakes. And by the time we look up, they passed about 1,000 bills, and they're like, what's going on?
Yeah, it's always a way of them diverting attention to other things so that they can get what they really want done, taken care of. But this tax bill, they're saying that it's going to help the lower class and the middle class, but we definitely know it's going to help the corporate world. Slashing the taxes 15%, because it's going from 35% to 20% that they will have to pay. And they're talking about all of these tax cuts that we will receive, but they run out. I think I saw that some of them will run out by 2024 or something like that, or 2025. So there are some things that we really need to look at as far as this tax bill that they narrowly passed in the Senate early on Saturday morning while we were sleeping. So we need to pay more attention to what's going on in this world.
I think the tax cuts, it's supposed to add like $1 trillion to the deficit, from what I'm hearing. And, we're like, well, how, like you said, like, how do we get our benefits from this? And, basically, if you're, the president and the people that he like, the rich people, the corporations, they're getting the tax cuts. And, we're pretty much not getting anything out of it. So.
Yeah. It's something for us to really think about. Something to really, really think about. You talked about life being an art form. So your quote is, "Life is an art form, so shape yours through passion and creativity." Things like this really ring true in my life. We're talking about news, things that are happening in the news today. We're talking about these tax bills. We're talking about Aetna and CVS possibly creating a merger. It's important to know what's going on in the world today to be able to create authentic, organic characters in our writing and in our work. And I want to know, based on your statement, what made you come to that realization?
Well, I always have this saying, art imitates life. Mm-hmm. So with that, with that being said, is that as artists, we are the new creators. That's why you see so many people writing books now. So many people getting into motivational speaking and different avenues like that. So we're the new creators. So we're creating for society that's definitely going to uplift people, motivate people, get them going, and we're creating like new branches and streams of income, for people.
Right.
Also, So, it's important that we control our narrative, like in the beginning, you can do that by being independent. So, while you have your ducks in a row. So, when you start meeting with these big publishers, you can say, okay, cool. I write this, and that along these genres. So, you already have your stuff, ready to go, instead of, that's one thing, one of my writing partners and I, we didn't do. We never had our ducks in a row. So when we went to people, we would say like, hey, we're trying to, instead of saying, hey, here's my book, I'm such and such, and and this tells an amazing story of who you are, and it's eye catching, and it's a conversation story.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm glad that you mentioned one of your writing partners. You co-authored 2 children's series with Tristan Jackson. Tell us about that experience.
Well, the first children's series was the Adventures of Bunny Man, the Bunny Detective. So basically, he's a brown bunny of color. He goes around. He helps kids through different things in life. We had one book entitled, "I Love You, Daddy." A little girl, she lost her father tragically. So the bunny detective comes in and helps her through that process, through that grieving process, knowing that her dad is still, looking down, on her and in afterlife. Basically, that he's still there for her, and that he's always going to be there for her. And as far as partnering and writing with someone else, it helps to broaden your spectrum in a sense. So like, what you don't see, they see. It's like collaborating ideas, just like when you're video editing. Just
Right.
taking out the bad, putting in the good, and just creating something that's just amazing and mind blowing. And the next kid series that I have coming out, that's with Mr. Derek Williams, and that's called "Chance You're Begging for Trouble." And that book is going to be tackling bullying.
Awesome. Okay. So I'm glad you talked about that because I want to know how you started writing children's books. What was your motivation?
Well, the Bunny Detective books, I'd say about 3 years ago. I got this little cute bunny for Valentine's Day, and he was just sitting around the apartment, and I was like, say, bro, look, you're gonna have to do something to help pay these bills around here. So we came up with the idea to start a kids series, because like every time I put him somewhere, I just started coming up with all these creative ideas and different things of that nature. So, and before that, I was a big Disney fan, a big Marvel Comics fan, and a big like watching cartoons like Fat Albert and things of that nature growing up as a kid. So that just helped me have this wild creative imagination. So I think it's just more or less something that was just destined, more or less that's just destined to be, as far as the kids will go, because I'm a kid at heart. So
That's good. It's always good to be to be a kid at heart because that means you'll always do the fun and things. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So you indicated that your brother and sister are both writers. How did those experiences or their experiences help make you a better writer?
Well, my brother, when he started writing, he started doing like probably like short stories and poetry, and this was like maybe in the '90s, and then it's like it passed down from generation to generation. It's like my parents started singing. Then my brother, he was very athletic. Then he started writing, just like a very multi-talented family. My sister started doing poetry. Now my brother he's a minister, so he writes sermons now. So, and with me, I learned that I could write. I say I got my soul from the church, so that really helped me to go in depth as far as art and writing goes. So, went from like poetry to music to short stories. Now I'm doing books, and the next book I think that's coming out is The Secret Churchwise, and that's a novel that I'm co-authoring with Tristan Jackson also.
You battled depression and you use writing as an outlet. How has being an author helped you with that?
I think I think the one thing about depression, it's sometimes I think it can be a chemical imbalance, and I think sometimes it can be it's mental, especially African American community. I think a lot of people deal with it, but it's almost like that unspoken taboo thing. It's like like keep it quiet, but
Mm-hmm.
you can't. So the one thing that helped me was my passions in writing. Going to the poetry clubs, being around creative-minded individuals, getting that love, and especially being in the city, especially when I was living in New Orleans, especially being in the city that's so artistic, and its value. So all of that combined helped me to be the writer that I am, the writer that climbing the ladder to be. So I think with my writing, I'm just naturally scratching the surface. So it helps to keep my mind sharp and keep it focused. They say idle minds and the devil's playground and all of that good stuff. So it definitely it's like throwing logs on fire, so to speak. Just keeping that passion burning and going, and just keep it moving in a sense, but in a positive sense.
Okay. And I asked that because I was really, really heavy on the poetry scene. I've even been to New Orleans to do some poetry.
Mm-hmm.
Was real heavy in the scene in Jackson, my hometown. And then I was real heavy in Dallas when I lived there in Dallas, Texas. And so poetry is near and dear to my heart. And it also helped me get through a whole lot of things, because you start thinking about things that have happened to you, things that you wish you could have changed, and then you start writing about it, and it's therapeutic. It's really therapeutic. So I'm very glad
it is.
you're using this as a tool to talk to people about it. I'm sure you talk to a lot of people about depression and its effects and things that they can do. One of the things that's going on in the news today, or that we just found out about, was over the weekend, a CEO, Lowell Hawthorne, committed suicide, and it was because of depression. He's the CEO of Golden Krust Caribbean Bakery and Grill. We have several of them around here in Miami, but he was in New York. He killed himself, and the reports are that he was heavy in tax debt, and he also had a former employee that was suing him for back pay. But when they interviewed his longtime employee, nobody had anything bad to say about him. Everybody said he was a nice guy. Everyone said that he was wonderful to work with, that they would never work for anyone else. But he clearly had some other issues that he was dealing with that he just did not have an outlet for. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, depression can be called a silent killer. So you can be you can be doing your job. People can say like you're the happiest person in the world. Like you can put this mask on your face. When you're in front of people, but when when you're behind closed doors, that's when it's you and your thoughts and your emotions. And being the CEO of of like probably a global company, I doubt that that's an easy thing to handle, especially when your company is having financial hardships, and you have all of these responsibilities that you have to handle. So it's something that if you don't seek help, it's something that can eat you from the outside within. And like you said, his employee said, he was great, he was amazing, just a great person to work for. And that's all well and done. But if you're screaming and nobody can hear you, then how are you ever going to get help? I mean, we can only speculate what the individual was going through at
Right.
that certain time. With depression, but I'm sure with the amount of debt and then with the emotional aspects of it, having that grind day in and day out, running a a global empire, it's something that's definitely not easy.
Mm-hmm. And then he may not have had the outlets that we have because of that, because he had
Right.
so many things going on. He was probably trying to keep his company afloat. We never really know. You're correct. We don't know. But I did want to
Right.
talk about that because that's something that's going on right now. And I just thought it was really important to talk about, the importance of talking to someone or finding some type of outlet. So if you are suffering from depression or if it's leading to suicidal thoughts, please call the National Hope Line to connect with a depression treatment center in your area. The Hope Line also offers a live chat feature for those who don't want to call or go into a center. You can call 1-800-SUICIDE, and that's 1-800-784-2433. My condolences to his family. It's very sad when someone commits suicide for any reason, for bullying.
Yeah.
And speaking of bullying, I kind of want to talk about the children's books because in today's society, we have so many kids who are suffering, who are committing suicide, and who are suffering from bullying. So are any of your books talking about those? I know you said you have something coming out, but can you give us some more information about books that you may have that touch on that topic?
Yeah, the Chance You're Begging for Trouble, the first book, that's covering the topic of bullying, and especially for kids living in this digital world. It's like the internet rules their psyche. So if the class are a few students, it may not be like, when I was a year, we were probably kids, it was like bullying on the playground. But when I was a kid, we would just fight. And the next day you probably friends again with the kid. But the dynamics have changed, and these kids are very. I think they're more fragile now. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I always like to blame the internet for that. I don't know, but I think as parents, you can. I think as parents, you can only do so much. But I know growing up, I remember a thing called peer pressure.
Right.
Yeah, like if you don't have these type of shoes on, or the type of the name brand stuff, then I guess you're not cool, you're not in, you're not hip. But with the Chance book, it's just some goofy kids who live life, and they get into little situations, but through that they learn. And the Chance character, he that's bullied in his neighborhood. He stands up for himself. That's the important thing. The self-esteem. Knowing that you're gonna be different, and it's a lifelong growing process. Like the little kids that you're around now. 3 years from now, you might not ever see them again. Maybe, but I think the social media aspect. Really plays heavy into the social hierarchy of the kids, and especially on the playground and in schools. Who's popular? Who's doing what? How many friends this person has. So that book. I think that book is really. I think it's going to do well, and it's really, really, really needed, especially nowadays.
I agree. Yeah. When I was growing up, I didn't care what anybody thought about me. My parents didn't raise us that way. I was always, because I've been writing ever since I was a little girl. So my thing was I liked to read. I wasn't the little girl that liked the Barbie dolls. I didn't like Barbie dolls. I wanted like a teddy bear. You could give me a stuffed teddy bear because they were soft and you could cuddle with them, but I didn't have to have a Barbie doll. Give me a chemistry set, or give me a book to read, or something like that. Those were the things that I was interested in. So I never really cared what people thought about me. I just cared about what I liked to do. And my mother and my father, they fostered that within us because they allowed us to be who we are, and they never really just punished us for it. They encouraged us, and because of that encouragement, I was friendly. I knew everybody. I talked to everybody, but I didn't necessarily have to belong to a clique. And that was one of the best things that could have ever happened to me. because of that, I had my individuality. And so you say what you need to say or what you want to say. I'm going to tell you how I feel, and then I'll go on about my business. So it was cool. And then my mother was a school teacher. So the elementary school that I went to was right next door to the high school where she taught. And then the middle school that I went to was around the corner. And then I actually went to the high school. So I had my mother there, even though I didn't have my mother there, because my mom never interfered. She never interfered with what was going on in my life. Sometimes I wanted her to, and she wouldn't. So, I really think that I agree with you. Today, children are a little more sensitive, but I do believe that if parents were able to really foster that individuality in children and kind of help them grow in that way, that it would eliminate some of the bullying, because we've always had bullying. I was bullied. I just didn't care. So, it was like, hey, you run like, what did they tell me? I was taller than everybody else. So it was like, you run like a monster or something crazy they used to say about me. And I was like, okay, but I never stopped running.
Yeah,
Hey, I
exactly.
can get there faster than you because I'm taller. That's what it is. So, you know.
And yeah, I think that's another thing. Like kids get jealous because one kid has something, or they might find the kid looks better than them, or they're more popular or whatever. So it's an interesting thing kids go through, nowadays, especially especially like in the schools and on the internet.
Okay. So what other authors are you friends with, and how do they help you become a better author?
Well, I have a friend who's living in Miami right now, who's from Jackson, Mississippi, and she, and she, she had this amazing podcast that she so humbly let me be a part of, and just seeing people create and just step out there, it helps to prepare me for the next level. I think it also helps me to network. I grew up introverted, as a kid. So, even today I'm still getting out of that, and I'm still learning, and I'm still growing. So, maybe 10, 15 years ago, there'd be no way in the world I'd be able to do this, and just be able to just meet a complete and, just total stranger off of social media and, introduce myself and say, take advantage of an opportunity, and, but I have a lot of amazing, friends who are authors, like all over the country and, and around the world, who I'm really looking forward to, networking with and growing with. And, I always say the sky's the limit with this, and I always tell people, use those social media platforms. I know a lot of people like to get on there and clown and do whatever. Some people promote their business, some use it for the right thing. But, for me, I'm always looking for opportunities to broaden my horizons, so to speak, and I know that this journey is bigger than me. And, you can't do it, but you can't do it on your own, just like you need guests for your show, so it's a 50-50 thing, so it helps to grow your mind and your brand, all at the same time. And it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you can get ideas from other people. One of the things that I've learned from being on social media and being in various groups is blogging is a good thing. And there are a lot of people who do not like to blog. You have to. I started my blog maybe about 2 years ago, and I have various topics. Recently, I started doing flash fiction, which is something that I've never done before, but I really enjoy it. So you have to, like you said, you have to step out and do other things and do new things so that you can get people to see not only who you are, but what you're capable of. So I do flash fiction, I do the podcast, I write my books, I help anybody who needs help. Those are my things that I do to try to help others. So I appreciate that you are excited about being on the podcast. I'm excited to have you here as well. And hopefully this will start conversations for other authors to help each other.
Yeah, exactly. And, one thing the best advice I think I give any author out there is, don't be distracted by all of the people who are, it just seems like, I don't want to say like, it just seems like everybody and their mama wants to write a book all of a sudden nowadays, especially with social media. Like back in the day, everybody wanted to be a singer, or everybody wanted to dance, everybody wanted, like, all the dudes around the block had a mixtape, everybody wanted to be a rapper. So now, it's like now writing, I guess the next thing. But, my thing is just keep, stay focused. Let, as a writer, your story is going to tell itself. And, there's enough out here for everybody to get it. So, don't necessarily focus on what everybody else is doing. It's good to do that, take a little bit of what they're doing and add it to your game, but, you have to stay focused, and you have to keep moving.
I agree with that. I do. But I don't mind doing new things. I enjoy doing things. And so I encourage other people to try new avenues and new outlets.
Right. And what you're, it's like what you're doing now by, writing your books, that's going to prepare you for the next level. Like, me doing all these podcasts, these radio interviews, going on these, talk shows and different things like that. It's preparing me for the next step that's coming along the journey.
Yes, and I look forward to seeing you do those things. We're not going to just end this friendship that we are forming now, because I will make sure that I keep up with you and that I keep in touch with you, and hopefully have you back on the show and you can tell us about other things that you are doing. And then maybe eventually we'll be able to do some type of collaboration. So I look forward to seeing what the future has in store for you.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I look forward to see what the future has in store for you too. I see, like, I know I see you doing like a lot of different business ventures, especially being out there. And I know Miami is a city. It's an international city. Houston is too, but it's a little. Houston is more like like oil and gas and things like that. But I think Miami is more. It's more set up for people who want to be entrepreneurs, but more in the entertainment spectrum of it. Be a writer, or somebody who's an actress, or somebody who wants to do movies or sing, just different things like that.
Yeah. Okay, so this leads me to my very last question for you. Well, no, it's not my last question, but my last interview question. What does literary success look like to you?
Literary success to me is taking my brand global. I used to watch a cartoon called Pinky and the Brain, real quick.
Oh,
And
I loved it.
one would ask the other, so what are we doing today, Brain? The same thing we're trying to do every day. The same thing we're trying to do every day. Pinky, try to take over the world. So that's basically what I'm doing. I know a lot more opportunities are going to open. Just talking to you. This is an opportunity. If somebody sees this, you never know what kind of people are, and people are watching. Yeah, even though on social media, you may not get a lot of likes. A lot of people may not buy your books on your page itself, but they are watching. And my thing is just to have growth. My thing is just to take it, national and international. So I plan on being all over the place.
That's awesome. Okay, so now it's time for our segment that I call What's in the Honey Pot. And this is a segment where I reach in and I pull out something that has touched me in some type of way. I love music. So anytime I'm doing something, I have some type of music going, or if I'm cleaning up, I have music. If I'm cooking, I have music. I'm just a music person. So I like to reach into my honey pot and get something out that people may not be aware of. I like to introduce new artists in this segment. So Raheem Devon has a collaboration effort, and he formed the group Crossroads for an album entitled Footprints on the Moon. This album features artists like Gil Scott-Heron, Scarface, Talib Kweli, and poet Raquel Brown. If you haven't had a chance to get a copy of that album, pick it up. One of my favorite songs on there is Footprints on the Moon, which is actually the title of the album. So what are you listening to right now? What's on your playlist?
Right now, I am jamming to. I've been listening to a lot of neo lately for some,
Really?
for some. Yeah, I've listened to a lot of neo, Carrie Hilton, a lot of R&B stuff. I still, I like stuff from like maybe like the 80s, 90s. Because it's like when Prince and Michael Jackson left, I kind of left music for a while. I did. I was like, this is it. But they have a lot of good artists coming up. They have a lot of good artists coming up, and I think what's played on the mainstream. I don't listen to a lot of the radio. You have to kind of search for these people in a sense.
Right.
And a lot of what I hear in the mainstream, everybody's like, Cardi B, but it's way bigger than, it's cool for success, but as a whole lot more people out there to listen to. Now I've been listening to, I was listening to Damon Morley the other day, so I try to mix it up. I definitely try to mix it up.
Okay. Well, thank you. I want to say thank you to my guest, Mr. Demond Alvarez, today. Do you have any last words for us? And tell people where they can find you on social media and your websites.
My social media stuff, Instagram and Twitter, even though I don't really know how to use Twitter, is it's Soul of a Man, Soul of a Man 504. My website is www.soulofaman504.com. And also on Amazon, I'm Demond Alvarez. My books will pop right up. And Facebook, Demond Alvarez, or just hashtag Soul of a Man 504. So it's definitely about the soul of a man 504. And, parting words for people, I just tell people, keep creating. Always, one thing I told my homeboy, when we got into this venture, I tell him, I said, man, you know what? When we start this, there's no turning back, right? And I was like, we can just stop now and just go back to the 9 to 5. He's like, man, ain't nowhere to work. I'm tired of working for people. I was like, you know what? I said, hey, let's do this thing. I just tell people, keep creating, keep, whatever it is you're doing, writing, dancing, singing, painting, whatever it is you're doing, your art form. That's going to speak for itself. What's that old saying? If you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. Keep writing and just keep creating. That's why, always, with my books here, I just, always have them, always have them ready, always have them available. So if somebody asks, I'm just ready to go at a moment's notice.
And you know what? That is the best way to be. I'm the same way. I have a bag already packed.
Yeah.
At any minute, so I'm totally with you. Okay, well, we have a fun-filled and informative week ahead. Check out the show for interviews with finance expert Mr. Chima Buri as we talk Bitcoin 101, cryptocurrency, and Forex trading. We will round the week off with author Leah Forney and motivational speaker and radio show host Mr. Cedric Keeler. Today's podcast is brought to you by the Unapologetically Me t-shirt. For more information, visit www.imunapologeticallyme.com. I'll make sure that I put all of these links in the description so you guys can go there. And thank you for taking the time to listen to the HoneyPot podcast. Thank you so much for coming onto the show, Demond. I am your host, Carmen Hendricks. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and like us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram using the handle @HoneyPot Podcast. You can also find me at CarmenHendricks.com. That does it for today's podcast. I'm putting the lid back on the pot. Until next time.